Okay, so we are officially set up for the stream. What are we doing today? So, what I meant by the title is actually that I'm going to create a game um, in which there are two princes, okay, and they have to fight together. I mean, they have to cooperate together to finish a platformer game. And the king is dying, so they have to fight against that. They also have to um, basically, it's just a simple platformer. And at the end of the game, here's the twist: at the end of the game, they will have to fight each other for the throne. So that's the basic gist of it. I haven't really thought this through. This was just an idea that I came up with not that long ago. And here I'm going to. So I have built some boilerplate code. It's not that much. I mean, I was thinking of doing this on stream too, but like, eh, I think it would be much more fun if I did the actual game logic here. So yeah, here I'm just having a vertex shader source, a fragment shader source. Basically, it's just I'm using OpenGL 4.0. I'm using GLFW and GLAD. Then I set up. Let's just get a rundown of what's happening. Uh, just a second. Sorry about that. So what are we doing right now? We have just a vector, a float vector of vertices, and I'm using indices to map those vertices. So in general, what OpenGL basically, um, I'm thinking of how much to explain right now, but I'm just going to give a rundown basically. So we have each vertex, and we can only draw in triangles. I mean, we can draw in multiple things, but triangles is like the most efficient. And because look, you can either have a point, you can't really build much with a point. You can have lines, but like they will be like shallow. You don't have any area to work with. So what's one step up from a line? And that's a triangle. So we have a triangle here. So if we wanted to make a quadrilateral, or a rectangle, we can just use two triangles, one facing this way and another facing this way, right? But notice how when you're defining two triangles like this, you're actually using six vertices, three for this triangle and three for this triangle. And that's too big, especially for just a square. If you have bigger game engines like Unreal Engine, you must have seen their trailers, and that's actually like they're using millions of vertices, and something like this won't scale up. So what we do instead is we pass in some vertex information. So we're like, oh, we have some sort of texture. Let's say we have a grass texture, and they have an S and T coordinate like this, so we can map each individual coordinate to this, so we can have like a diagonal texture, or an upside down texture. We can map it upside down, or maybe we can have a sprite sheet and we can know, oh, this segment of this texture, of the sprite sheet texture, will be used for our um what is it called, our quadrilateral, okay, to texture our objects, our entities. So we have this SNT information. We can optionally also have RGB. We can have anything we want. So we can have an RGB, which we can use to change its color, maybe add lighting. So we have an RGB. We can pass any data, so we can have a specific color for each vertex. So we can add lighting to it and stuff like that. We can obviously also have the X, Y, and Z coordinates of the vertice, of the vertex, right? So we can package all of this for each vertex into one buffer. That's called the vertex buffer object. And buffer is obviously a place in memory. So we can just fit all of that into a single buffer. Then we can have a vertex array object, which is an array of VBAOs. So we can have multiple VBAOs, and each VBO can have multiple uh, amounts of data. It's very flexible. So that's why you should always use OpenGL 3.0 or greater. Okay. Anyways, here I have included XYZ, RGB, and the SNT um, chords for each of our vertices. Now, we also have an indices. So the original thing I was explaining was that we have 6 vertices when we have 2 triangles, right? So, but we only really need 4. There are only 4 unique vertices. These two are just duplicates of each other. So what we can do is just specify each of the vertices separately. We can say, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we can say how we want to attach them. So we want to attach from 0 to this, to this, to this, and 1 from this, to this, to this, to this. Isn't that cool? So that's what indices do. And that information is stored into another buffer object entirely. That's called the EBO, element buffer object. Why? Why can't we just store it with each vertex? Because that does not make any sense. Each of our vertices is different than our indices. Of course, we want to organize our vertices like a meta buffer above that. It's just two separate. It's just two separate pieces of information. So we put both of these buffers into AVAO. Isn't that cool? I think that's pretty cool. So here we go from clockwise. We go clockwise and start from 0. So we have 0, 1, 3 of the first triangle. That's 0, 1, 3. So top right, bottom left. So it's a bit different. It's probably like this: top right, bottom left. Yeah, it's like this, and the other one's like this. In any case, we have our vertices and our indices. Then we have a vertex shader. All we do with that is just take in the input position, which we supply here. So first we create a window with GLFW, and we use GLFW to create a window. We specify that we are using OpenGL version 4.0. We specify the window's width and height and our title. Then we specify that if we fail to create, we're going to throw an error. We're going to make the context current, which means every time we apply a GLFW operation, because this is not a C++ library, it's a C library, and we're using it inside C++. So, of course, we are going to be having to deal with a lot of pointers. So GLFW make context current window specifies which window we will want to address every time we use a GLFW operation. So here we're just going to have to do some fancy trick to get GLFW to work with GLAD. And after that's done, we can create the vertex shader. We can put our shader string inside that. And once we do that, where is that? Yeah. Then we're going to try to compile the shader. We're going to get information about it. We're going to store that inside a string buffer, info log, or char buffer. And we can just throw the error and exit out the program. We can do the same thing with the fragment shader. The fragment shader deals with simply color and just actually outputting the pixels to the screen. Vertex shader deals more with how you want to translate the vertices, move them. If we have a projection matrix, we want to view it in 3D or 2D or different type of projections like orthogonal projections or 2.5D or isometrics. We will have to use the vertex shader to our advantage and multiply our matrices, our original XYZ coordinates, by those matrices that we can supply through uniforms. How we are doing that is very simple. First of all, we're going to create a shader program which will basically be a pipeline. So it's going to be vertex shader, which is going to feed into a fragment shader, and that is going to be our entire program. That's called a shader program. So we can just create the program, and we can attach both of the shaders to the program, and then we can finally link the program, which will just actually connect it, and yeah, that's basically it. Just connects it to the program. And make sure that everything is working. So we can check the error if there is any, and we can print that out and exit the program if we have an error while linking the program. Anyways, moving on, we are going to create a VAO. This GLGen vertex arrays creates an array of vertices, but doing something like this is the same as doing something like this. I mean, yeah, doing something like this is equivalent to this. So that's why we pass in a pointer here and not anywhere else. We create a VAO, then we bind that VAO, which means anything, any buffer object that we're going to use next is going to be automatically added to our VAO. Now, we are going to create our VBO, and we're going to fit our data inside that, which is this vertices vector. All right, let's see. Um, Now, this needs the size in bytes, but because we have a vector, we can't just use the size of operator directly on it, because a vector in C++ has a pointer. It also has capacity and size and different things. It's not just a plain pointer, right? So that's why we are going to take the size, which will give us the elements it has, and we're going to multiply that by the size of float. And vertices.data, this function just returns a C array of our entire vector, and we're going to use GL static draw, which will optimize for setting vertices once and then rendering them again and again very fast, or multiple times at least. So here we're going to grab, here we're linking, we're finally putting stuff into the shader. So how we're doing that is we're going to take the apos, which is the our three component vector, which will be our three component vector. What will it do? What will our three component vector do? Yeah, that's it. That specifies our position of the current vertex. So we're going to get its location. There's something called location in which order. So it's specified first. It's 0, 1, 2, 3, according to the variables. Like in struct, when you define EC struct and you try to create it in memory, it's going to specify that in the order, in sequence of how you specified it, right? So in memory, it's going, if you have a struct with int, float, and char, it's going to, and if you create an instance of that struct, it's literally going to be an int, struct, and char. It's going to be in that same order. Of course, there is something called alignment, padding, and yeah, it's a bit different, but it's generally in the same order. So we can specify that individually by saying layout equals 0 inside that inside our vertex and fragment shaders. I don't really prefer doing that because if I forget something, or it's just going to be a mess. So instead, we can just use it by name. And we can use it by name, we can get the location, and then we can feed it. We can feed our information. We can say, oh, you have to, so let me pull up this thingamajig. Let me pull this out. So in textures, when we're filling stuff into this, yeah, look at this. Look at this beautiful diagram. By the way, this is an amazing website. If you ever wanted to learn OpenGL, you can learn from here. At least this will give you a basic starting point. Anyways, so we have our, in this single VBO, vertex buffer object, we have 3 vertices, as just an example. And we're having our XYZ, RGB, and SNTs. Every time we have to get to the next RGB component or next XYZ component, we have to jump how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floats. Right? So that's almost what we're doing. Instead, we're jumping 8 floats. Why? Because it starts off from the first X. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the starting. And for each subsequent, yeah, that makes 0 sense. Oh, never mind. This is our starting, and this is how much we have to jump to get to the next component. So here you can see you have 8 per vertices, so you have to jump 8 bytes, or 8 times the size of the float every time you want to get to the next component. Anyways, we can feed in our color attribute and our texture coordinate just like that. We're going to have our element buffer, and we're going to feed it the same way. Here I'm creating a tile class. It's not that complicated. All it does, it just binds the texture, sets how you want it to smooth. Like pixel art shouldn't be anti-aliased, but this specifies that if we're minimizing or magnifying our texture, it should be either it should be using the linear smoothing operation on it instead of being blocky, not anti-aliased. So here we have, then we generate, we use STBI to actually load it in, and then we can just directly pass it in, and we can generate our bitmaps. We can free that image at the end because now we have everything we want stored inside of this unsigned in mtext. Isn't that cool? I think it's pretty cool. So we have this entity. I just extended that to a tile. I don't really have anything else that I want to do right now. I think it might have an ID that's specific to, like, if it's a grass tile, if it's something else. I'll see. And here we have a character, which is going to have a velocity. Everything else is the same. And our player is just going to be an extension of the character. Isn't that cool? So what's happening right now? I specified something at 0.5.5 here. Then I set our viewport, which means where our canvas where we want to draw, to 0, our window's width and our window's height, which means just to use the entire window. Then we're going to say, if you ever resize, call this function. And this function, all it does is just resets the viewport to our new window's width. That's all it does. Let me turn on eval right now. Yeah. Then we're going to enable blending and basically alpha so that we can have transparency and transparent textures. Then we're going to set a clear color every time we want to clear the color of our window. And here we have uniform locations, so we can get those. Our U model, U view, U projection. We're going to get those uniform locations. Uniforms versus inputs. So in shaders, every time you have a uniform, it's just it's a thing that can change any frame. Right? It's basically like a variable that's changing in real time. It could change at any moment. Whereas when we have an input into the texture, it's like we're creating an object. So if we have a character object, we're going to specify its texture once. We're going to specify its coordinates once, and that's it. Every time we want to move it, we can multiply it by a matrix that will store the translation vector inside it. So we can just multiply that by that continuously, and that's what we're doing. We're having our original A position, that's an input here, input vector 3 A position. Then we're multiplying that by our U model, which is like in local space where we want to translate it. And then U view, which is like our camera, and our projection, which is like if we wanted 3D, it's going to morph that camera like this so that it can perceive objects that are further away to be smaller. But we're using orthogonal projection, and you're going to see that here. Right here. We're using GLM ortho. That's basically it. We're doing some fancy maths so that we can have it from 0 to 1 and from 0 to 1, so that whenever we whenever we create a tile, that's 0.5.5, that should be in the center of the screen. That's basically it. It's not that complicated. We just draw the elements with our indices, and we keep resetting our uniforms. If we ever want to change them, we delete the shaders and we terminate our program. Wow, that took how long? That took 27 minutes, but we have finally explained where we reached up till now. Let me grab a drink of water. Okay. So I've been yapping for so long. Does this even work? That's a pretty good question, and let me try that out real quick. I run it from inside Emacs so that I don't have to type the path every time. Every time I want to do something. Yeah, it is my semester 2. This is a university project. It's my problem for going a bit overboard with it. Wow. C++. Compilation time. Whoa, look at that! With all that half an hour of explanation, we finally got a picture. But the cool thing about this picture is that we can now move on from it to a game. So let's get started on that. Doesn't that sound so cute? Yeah, I don't want to scale anything down right now. Maybe Maybe. Let me see if I scale it down. Look at that. Now, the beauty in this is that if I have 0, 0, you know what that's going to do? That's going to put it in the top left, at least. I hope so. Oh my god, literals don't work like that. You see, so now its center is in the top left corner. And of course, if we wanted to offset that, we could just minus it by 0.5 or whatever. I do not really feel like doing that because I think, I don't know, should we put it in the corner? It doesn't even matter, I think. Let's see if the math gets complicated, then we can change it. So here we have a single grass tile. And what we're doing here is we're binding that grass tile. And what are we doing? We're doing all of our uniforms. Okay, we get our position. What are we doing? Okay, and then we're just multiplying it by that. So, we can just, by the way, this projection matrix does not need to keep changing. Actually, it does. If we ever resize the window, it does. So, if we ever resize the window, it does. What we do here is let's just get an array of entities. Ooh, my camera got out of focus. Here I am. Can you find me? Okay. It is not trying to recognize. Okay, that's good enough. Anyways. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's create a vector of entities. So let's see, auto entities. That's going to be of type entity. Should we just have like a group of tiles? I think I'll just have a group of tiles. And here we're just going to call it tiles. Auto. What am I doing? That's supposed to be a std vector of tiles, and we're going to name that tiles. That's going to be equal to nothing right now. I guess that's good enough, right? We can just I guess zero initialize it. Oh, that's cool enough. What we're going to do now is the coolest thing you've ever seen. We're going to put this grass tile inside tiles. So tiles dot pushback grass tile. Or should we do the even cooler thing? We can in place back and just directly pass in things to here, and we can do something like that. Look at that! Look at me using C++. So we have our tiles, and we have created an object and put it right onto that vector. All we have to do now is to actually print it. So how are we going to print it? Everywhere that there's a grass tile. Let's see. Here we are activating texture 0. I do not want to do this right now. Yeah, I'm just gonna comment that out. So we're using program. I don't want to change that. This though is changing. Yeah. Here I'm going to use for tile t or tile in tiles. Fun. I know, very fun. Let's hope yeah. And we're going to replace grass tile with just tile. Just like that. Just like that. It's over. And let's see if that works. That works. Which means now all I have to do is just add another tile. So let's see. Let's see if I can add one to like 0.2. Let's see if that works. That works. So the problem with this though is that it's 0.2. That's 0.2 times 0.5, I think. And that's still halfway there. Since we do not have like a set size for this, this is why I did not want to scale. I do not want to scale right now. What will happen if we do not scale? Okay. Weird things happen. And if we just use the 0.5f that we were originally given, this puts it into the center of the screen, not with respect to the actual thing. You see, that's pretty annoying. Or should we use our window width every time? I think that's going to be much easier. I think just using our window width is going to be much easier. But we can do that. Isn't that funny? We're gonna have to do that manually. Okay. Okay, let's rethink the maths here. So what we're doing here, let me go back to a single jingle. This should be in the top left corner. This is in the top left corner. See how we can change the maths to fit that. So if we have a negative aspect ratio, what are we doing? We're getting in the tile position, and we're having negative aspect ratio to positive aspect ratio, and -1 to 1. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our tile position, the center of it. Getting the width of it is pretty weird, though. If we're scaling this even by some factor, that's still pretty weird. How do I even get the scale? How do I get the size that it's going to occupy? Even if it's in pixels, I do not know the size. What do I do? Let me think this through. We have negative aspect ratio plus tile dot get position dot x. So we get our tiles x, and then we're multiplying it by 2 times aspect ratio, so that can cover the entire spectrum. Because this entire width, is the entire 2 times aspect ratio, from negative aspect ratio to 0 to aspect ratio. So that's 2 aspect ratios. And we're trying to map that from 0 to 1. What I'm thinking, though, is that if we instead... Anyways, what I feel like doing right now is just replacing all the 0.5s here with a 1.0. And you know what that will instantly do? Is I think it will... What will it do, bro? Let's try putting something on 0.5. Let's see how that's gonna behave. Apparently not good. So let me undo all of that. Let me think of how this can be done, bro. How can this be done? Okay, what defines the initial size is everything. How do we get like a fixed size out of this? Like in pixels? That's pretty weird. Okay. Here we have something from 0 to 1. Yeah. Here we have something that goes from 0 to 1. Yeah. And all we need to do now is just multiply all that by our window's width. Here we have something that goes from 0 to 1. We're going to multiply that by window's height. And let's see if that works. Now, 0.5 really screws this up. But I think if we have something that's truly at 5.0, that should be like 5 pixels. That's not true. That's not true at all. Um, let's see if we have 0.5. Okay, so that worked. This makes absolutely dog water sense. That does not make any sense. Why did that just render? Let's say we are doing this. Okay, let's just add a point. Let's add a 0.1, 0.6. It should move, and it's gone. So I'm actually absolutely confused right now. Let's multiply this by 1. For now, let's just multiply this by 1 and let's see what good comes out of it. Okay. Now, if we have 1.0f, that's behind the chat. So let me just, yeah. That's what it looks like. Wait, was it behind the chat and I just did not notice? That would be pretty sad. But we have this here, which means that's 1. So we also want to have like, let's just see 1.0 1.0 if that works. I'll be pretty happy. That works. That works perfectly. So if I just multiply that by our Windows width and our Windows height, then if I do some like 100.0f, oh that yeah, that multiplies it. Oh my god. We're going to get our position.x and divide it by our Windows width. Yeah. We could specify like an auto position is equal to tile dot get underscore position dot x, or just dot get position, and this will be a GLM vec2, and then we can just apply a like divide that by like win width. I think GLM must have a function for this divide. GLM divide distance scalar multiply. Like if it's a vec2, oh okay. We're gonna have to multiply it by GLM. Multiplying is equivalent of translating, right? If we're multiplying, I think multiply should be there. I have absolutely no idea. Let's see. Look at that. Okay, I'm not gonna do this fancy shyster right now. Oops, that's actually a pretty big swear, I think. In German. That was just my silly little attempt at trying to. Oh my god, bro! This. How do people even talk about doing this? Like, this is. Okay. Let's go. It's at 100 pixels now, which means I can simply do anything that I want. The thing though here is that we don't know its exact scale. So I think we're gonna have like right now I'm fine with hash defining that as the tile size. And tile size I'm going to leave that as tile scale. Tile scale, I'm gonna do that 0.2. And then whenever we're going to have a view here, we can just simply scale that by, right now we're just going to use this tile scale. That's pretty cool. I think that's personally pretty cool. Tile scale. We can even do F at the end here. What's annoying though, I think this will this still render at 100 by 100? Yeah, So since it's just pixels, it will render at 100 by 100. I mean 100 on the X and 0 on the Y. Okay. Um, so if 0.5 was taking literally half of the screen, I can confidently think that 0.2 will be taking 20% of the screen. That does not look like that. Because that's 0.2 times 0.5. You know what that is? Well, my calc, 0.2 times 0.5, that's 0.1. That's 0.1. So what we're actually going to have to do... Okay, this is goofy. That's what's actually happening, right? And then we want to divide the 0.5. Divide by our 0.5. And that's going to look like 20% of the screen. You see? That looks like... That still doesn't look like 20%. Oh, wait, but it's perfectly there. It's perfectly there. It's perfectly at the start. Why is that? Why is that? It's a pretty good question, honestly. Okay. Let's just see. I think I have an idea as to what's happening right now. We're taking our tile scale, we're dividing it by 0.5. What that's giving us is just tile scale, which is 0.2, which should take up 20% of the screen, but for now I'm going to remove variables, and I'm going to multiply it by 1, which should give it as it is. How big is this? Oh, it's trying to maintain the aspect ratio, so it's only full when it's full. Sorry about that. Anyways, okay, my brain's frying right now. I will understand this. So tile.getPosition.x. We're taking that, then we're dividing it by our window's width. So we take our x position, we divide it by our window's width. So now we have from 0 to 1, a scale from 0 to 1 on where our window's width should be. Then we try to fit it into this ortho, which is negative aspect ratio to aspect ratio. So we're going to take it. We're going to add negative aspect ratio, so we get it to the webcam is flipped too, so it's confusing, but wait, so it should be here. Yeah. Negative aspect ratio. We're going to add it to that. Then we're multiplying it by 2 times aspect ratio. Do we need to do that or not? Once we have it from 0 to 1, do we need to multiply it by 2 times aspect ratio? Yeah, we still do. But that's everything. That's the... is that though? No, that's fine. And on the y, 1.0 is from the top. We add 1.0. Then we subtract tile.getPosition.y. So we take our y coordinate of our tile with our center. So our center of that. And we're going to add 1.0 to it. So now it's at the top. And then we're going to... Oh, first we're going to divide by when height. So we have it from 0 to 1. Then we add 1. And then we multiply by 2 because... From negative 1 to 1, that's negative 1 to 0, that's 1. Then 0 to 1, that's 2. So this all makes sense. Which means none of this is wrong. But I'm not getting the correct output. And that's because... Okay. We want the scale. What we do want is the scale. How we're going to get the scale is, let's first turn the scale off. How big should it be? Well, if we go to the vertex shader, okay, I think I get it now. We take our original position, we multiply it by a model, then our view, then our projection. So all three of them have some role to play inside it. 3D. Yeah. Since our model is not scaling, that should not affect anything. Our view is scaling. Our view is definitely scaling, but not on the Z. So since we don't move it on the Z, I mean, even if we move it on the Z, since our projection is, yeah, that shouldn't change anything, then the only thing that's actually changing it is our projection. And so if we can somehow get the output of our projection, we can get the tile size. Yeah. So if I see ortho right now, this is the only important line. This is how I can get my scale. Anything that we put in is getting multiplied by this at the end. And if we just want to break that, let's just see our orthographic projection here. We just want our orthographic projection. We just want our orthographic projection. I love LaTeX, but it just scares me with that. What? No, I just need the projection matrix mode. Please give that to me. Yeah, that's what it does. So it takes whatever our window is and then turns it into just a square. That's all it does. It just turns it into a square. I mean, a cube. My bad, bro. I'm tweaking. We just need to multiply. Okay, and if we have a cube. Oh, I get it now. So the difference between this cube, the ratio between this cube and the aspect ratio of our window is the scale. So let's say something was our entire 1 by 1. Let's say something filled up our entire window, our 16:9 ratio, 19:20, 16:9, right? 16:9, and that's 1920 by 1080. Okay. Yeah. And then we have something that's covering this entire like box. What's that going to be scaled down to? That's going to be smushed. But since we have a square, it shouldn't matter. Okay, let me just continue with this logic further. Yeah. If you have something that fills the entire screen, that's going to fill this entire. It's going to take the screen, and then it's just going to plop it in here. It's like that. It's like as a square. Why would it do that? 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 I don't really want to. Okay, fine. I think I'll have to. Let's just open this picture for each homogeneous vector. A trimetric, diametric, isometric. Here. Which can be given as a scaling of S followed by a translation T of the form. S and T. So this is our scaling. We got our scaling matrix. Okay, I want to do some funky maths by just using GLM functions and isolating the scale factor. What will this accomplish? If that's 2 upon right minus left on the x, 2 minus top and bottom, and we don't even care about the z. So these two is important. 2 upon right minus left, 2 upon top minus bottom. And so if you have 2 upon right minus left, what's our right side? In this case, our right side is aspect ratio, which we know is 16:9. And then we're going to take this. This is our x scaling factor, finally. And our y scaling factor is top minus. Wait. Oh, whoops. I didn't fully do it. Minus left. Minus negative 16 upon 9. Yeah, that sounds about right. And then for the other one, we have 2 upon top which is 1, minus bottom, which is -1. So that's 1. So on the y, it doesn't even scale. On the y, it doesn't even scale. So all we care about is the x. This is the scaling factor. So if I just get the 0/0th thing. Okay, let me just do this manually, and then we can think about it later. So we have our auto x or auto scale, auto my scale for now, and that's going to be let me just keep it afloat. 2 upon, that's right minus left. So in this case, what is our right? Our right is our aspect ratio. So aspect ratio minus our left, which is just plus our aspect ratio, but I think it's better to write it this way for clarity. And now that we have my scale, I think that's beautiful. I think we can do some cool things with this. Let me just put it at the top. Let's see if we can get this to render at 100% of the screen. Yeah, because this will be the X. So if we have 1080p, okay. This is what our X coordinate, yeah, so we have an X and Y. And since our Y does not change, our Y just multiplies by 1. What it scales by is on the X. So all we want to do, can we just get the Y because everything is a square in this? That's supposed to be 1. So if we get no. So if the Y is constant, we don't even need this. We don't even need a scale. Oh my god. If we have a scale on the Y coordinate. So it does not stretch on the Y, which means our Y just remains preserved, which means if we take the Y, we can just use it as our X, as our width. If we can just get the height. How do we get the height? If some things 0.5 as our input was, our input's like 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, that should be in the center. Something that's of length 0.5, which would be 50% of the screen, will get scaled by nothing, which means our scaling factor on the X is useless. I think I'm thinking about this too hard. I'm gonna take a step back. How do we even get the scale? How do we even get this? So it should be just 0.5, right? imagine the answer to all of that was just 0.5. But we want it in pixels. So it's 50% of the screen, which means the actual scale, actual tile size, is just our 0.5f times our window's width. That's our tile size. Sorry, our window's height. That's our tile size. That's our entire tile size. And let me show you that. You know why that's our tile size? I can prove this to you. So if I do tile size divided by 2, this should be perfect. Tile size divided by 2 and tile size divided by 2 should be in the top. Please, the top left corner must be in the top left corner. Let's go. But it's a bit off. Is it? Is that a square? Am I tweaking? I think that's just the rounding of the window. Let's add another thing to this. Hey, how are you? How are you? Miss Gray. Miss Gray. I hope you're not as gloomy as your username. Um, I'm fine. So, do you usually enjoy coding streams like this, or do you even have any experience in coding, or just like, where are you from? I'm from Pakistan. So you can probably see that from, you probably can't see it right now, but if I turn it here, you can see the CRT in the back, and this is classic in all. Just a second. Okay, never mind. I thought I heard someone knock at my door. So these CRTs are just so common. I've had someone else also pop into the stream, see the CRT, and be like, "Oh, are you in Pakistan too?" But it might just be my face. I am very Pakistani looking. Um, but yeah, which area or live in Pakistan? I do not want to answer that. um, but city Karachi. I live in Karachi. Um, yeah, I've been living here basically my entire life. I did go abroad a few times, but not for long. Um, not in any English speaking countries, or I actually haven't been to Europe. I think, oh, nice, Karachi. Which, yeah, that's way too specific. But you can probably guess. You can probably guess. Uh, yeah, it's not. It's yeah. With the CRT, you can probably guess. I'm in middle class, so lower middle. Yeah, that's anyway. But uh, do you enjoy coding streams like this, or do you have any? Why are you speaking English? Because I want to reach a wider audience. मैं उर्दू भी बोल सकता हूँ, मगर I would rather speak in English because I can reach a wider audience and more people can benefit from the stream. Um, मैं bilingual भी हो सकता हूँ, but I don't think. अबे तो उर्दू बोलना ना भाई. अच्छा तो बोल दी ना. uh, भाई miss underscore gray के साथ I did not expect. I mean, I didn't actually expect anyone to be Pakistani on this stream. यानी यहाँ पे Twitch और streaming in general को इतना बुरा बोला जाता है ना. I mean, I haven't had that experience personally. मुझे नहीं, मेरी family वगैरह, they always support me. But I've seen a stigma around streamers in general, especially here. Uh, my audio might be a bit scuffed, and that's because, yeah. Okay, it's not reaching up till there. Oh, maybe. My microphone is not on a boom arm. I see. Maybe Karachi se hu Jani. Okay, Johnny. That reminds me of what song was that? Uh, there's a क्या था यार, एक रैपर था ना, अ, पा- पल पल नहीं नहीं, uh, Jenna in Jordans. I forgot his name. Jenna in Jordans. Munab Mane. Munab Mane. नहीं नहीं तराजू नहीं, Munab Mane. Pretty good singer. Though I don't support music. I left that quite a long time ago. You can probably see why. uh, but yeah, that used to be one of my favorites. Um, yeah, really. So what what brought you to this stream? Like मैंने तो YouTube चैनल खोलने का सोचा था ताकि मैं उस पर वर्ड्स अपलोड कर सकूं, और वहाँ पे थोड़ी क्लिप्स या उससे एटलीस्ट इतनी ट्रैक्शन गेन कर लूँ कि लोग लाइव पे आ जाएं. बट या इट्स इंटरेस्टिंग कि आई हैवंट इवन ब्रांडेड एनीथिंग, मैंने ना कुछ ग्राफिक डिज़ाइन कुछ भी नहीं किया हुआ अभी। मुझे वो करना है, बट आई थॉट कि यार एक दफ़ा पहले लग जाओ, एक दफ़ा कर लो, एक आध स्ट्रीम्स, ताकि एक मोमेंटम बनना शुरू हो जाए, फिर बाकी चीज़ों में फोकस कर सकते हैं। मगर कैमरे के सामने बात करना और माइक्रोफोन पे और कुछ रिकॉर्ड करना पहली दफ़ा है। अच्छा अच्छा, तुम अभी क्या मतलब क्या पढ़ा है? अ, मैंने यानी अच्छा पढ़ा गया है, पढ़ा मैंने है, अभी मैं फास्ट में हूँ। आई एम इन माई सेकेंड सेमेस्टर, तो कंप्यूटर साइंस डिग्री कर रहा हूँ। एंड विद दैट बहुत छोटी उम्र से मुझे प्रोग्रामिंग में शौक हो गया था, जब मैं 7 साल का था। तो कोई मेरी फैमिली में कोई भी नहीं था प्रोग्रामर, बट मुझे बस एक रैंडमली एक एप्लीकेशन मैंने खोली, मुझे पता चला अच्छा गेम डेवलपमेंट होती है। फिर मैंने मैथ्स पढ़नी शुरू कर दी, तो मैं बस आहिस्ता आहिस्ता पढ़ते पढ़ते, यानी अब 11 साल हो गए मुझे तकरीबन, 12 होने वाला है। बस, तो उसके बाद मैंने सोचा कि यार कोई सॉलिड प्रोजेक्ट्स नहीं बने मेरे पास, और मेरे पास मोटिवेशन नहीं थी एक्चुअल सॉलिड प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाने की। तो ये भी एक यूनिवर्सिटी असाइनमेंट ही था, मगर उन्होंने इतना मांगा नहीं था मुझसे। माशाल्लाह हमसे तो कॉपी नहीं खोली जाती भाई। नहीं, फिक्र नहीं करो, मेरे कभी ग्रेड्स अच्छे नहीं आते थे, मगर अभी भी नहीं आते। मगर बस ये कि शौक बन जाता है, यानी शौक बनाना पड़ता है, मुझे भी यही लगता है कि एक दफ़ा तुम कोई चीज़ को लगाओ, जैसे ब्लेंडर था, जो 3D मॉडलिंग सॉफ्टवेयर, माइट हैव हर्ड ऑफ इट, ब्लेंडर 4.4। जैसे सारी 3D मूवीज़ बनती हैं, यानी कौन सी एनिमेटेड चीज़, जैसे पिक्सार की सारी मूवीज़ होती हैं, तो वो इन 3D मॉडलिंग सॉफ्टवेयर में बनती है। मैंने सोचा कि हो सकता है, यानी जब मैं उस वक्त 3 4 साल में हो गया था प्रोग्रामिंग करते हुए, मैंने सोचा कि हो सकता है मुझे ब्लेंडर में उससे भी ज़्यादा शौक है। तो मैंने कहा अच्छा, और मुझे उस वक्त आर्ट और क्रिएटिविटी से एक्चुअली बहुत चढ़ती, तो मैंने कहा अच्छा, आई जस्ट गिव माई सेल्फ एट लीस्ट 6 मंथ्स, देखता हूँ हाउ इट्स गोइंग टू वर्क आउट। एंड इफ आई क्विट बिफोर 6 मंथ्स, सॉरी, इफ आई क्विट आफ्टर 6 मंथ्स, 6 मंथ्स के बाद भी मुझे शौक नहीं हुआ किसी भी चीज़ का, ब्लेंडर का मुझे पसंद नहीं आई, देन आई एम गोइंग टू लीव इट। तो फिर मैंने क्या किया, हर दिन सुबह 6 बजे से रात 12 बजे तक बस ग्राइंड, लर्निंग ब्लेंडर। अगर मैं स्कूल से आया, स्कूल की उस वक्त छुट्टियाँ थी, समर वेकेशन थी, तो दैट्स ऑल आई यूज्ड टू डू। करते 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 विद इन अ मंथ मुझे इतना पसंद आने लगा कि इट कुड हैव बीन, आई कुड स्पेंड माय एंटायर लाइफ ऑन इट, यानी मैंने कहा ओ दैट्स प्रीटी कूल। तो यस ब्रदर, यू आर राइट, गुड लक फॉर द फ्यूचर। थैंक यू। हाँ, जाहिर सी बात है, फ्यूचर का तो ये पता नहीं इतना, मगर अब तो ब्लेंडर के तरीके से मैंने और भी सारी हॉबीज़ डिफरेंट ट्राई की, मैंने राइटिंग ट्राई की थी, डिफरेंट डिफरेंट चीज़ें ट्राई की थी। आपने, क्योंकि मुझे हर चीज़ फ्रॉम स्क्रैच बनाने का बहुत शौक होता था, तो गेम इंजन भी है। मैंने सोचा कि मैं गेम इंजन को, मैं एक गेम नहीं बनाऊंगा जब तक मैं गेम इंजन नहीं बना लूँगा, एक परफेक्शनिस्ट मेंटालिटी थी। तो उसमें ऑब्वियसली ये मसला हुआ कि 11 साल के बाद भी मेरे पास एक ऐसा पोर्टफोलियो नहीं जो मैं दिखा सकता हूँ। मगर आई डिड गो इनटू मैनी रैबिट होल्स, बहुत चीज़ें मैंने पढ़ी बहुत डिटेल्स में, तो उससे काफ़ी फ़ायदा हुआ। मेरी रिटेंशन इतनी अच्छी नहीं थी, मगर तो अभी भी मेरे पास लर्न CVP खुला हुआ है, ये एक्चुअली बेस्ट रिसोर्स है फॉर C++। और ये पूरी इन डेप्थ जाती है, यानी अगर आपको बिल्कुल इन डेप्थ जाना है, ये सिर्फ एक किताब की तरह पढ़ सकते हैं, इतनी बड़ी भी नहीं है। एंड दिस इज़ एवरीथिंग यू नीड टू नो टू गेट अ C++ जॉब। तो ये मैंने सब पढ़ा हुआ है, बट आई स्टिल हैव टू कीप इट ओपन, बार बार मुझे पढ़ते रहना पड़ता है, बार बार मैं भूल जाता हूँ, बट आई थिंक दैट्स पार्ट ऑफ द प्रोसेस, और दैट्स पार्ट ऑफ द प्रोसेस। Anyways, thank you for joining, Miss Gray. What are we going to continue doing? वैसे बड़ी बात है कि तुम घर में इतने सुकून से स्ट्रीम, यार कसम से मैं तुम्हें बता रहा हूँ कि घर में सुकून से नहीं हो पाती, और इसीलिए मुझे इतना टाइम लगा। मैंने बहुत पहले सोचा हुआ था स्ट्रीमिंग करने का। मेरे नाना नानी भी आए हुए हैं, और शोर बहुत होता है। तो मैंने क्या करनी शुरू की, मैंने अपनी जो पहली स्ट्रीम की थी कुछ दिन पहले, वो मैंने रात के, मैंने कहा मैं अच्छा रात जाऊँगा, और दिन भी जागना पड़ा था काम करने के लिए। तो रात के 2 बजे से 3 बजे तक सुबह सुबह के, हाँ, यानी पूरी रात जाग के स्ट्रीमिंग करना। मगर ऑब्वियसली यूनिवर्सिटी वगैरह के साथ एज सच पॉसिबल नहीं था। तो मैंने सोचा कि मैं सबको बता ही देता हूँ। तो मैं सबको इन्फॉर्म कर दिया और मैंने कहा कि मेरी प्रोजेक्ट सबमिशन भी है, विच इज़ ट्रू। ये मुझे एक्चुअली आज सबमिट करना था और मैंने कल रात 2 बजे तक जाग के मैंने उसको बनाने की कोशिश की थी। मगर मुझसे ऑब्वियसली नहीं कंप्लीट हुआ। ये काफ़ी बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट, पूरा गेम है, पूरा प्लेटफॉर्म बनाना, तो इतने कम टाइम में नहीं बन सकता। मगर और मेरा जो एक पार्टनर था जो इसको डेवलप करने में साथ था, उसको इतनी आती नहीं थी ओपन जी और C++, उसको सीखनी पड़ी थी मेरे साथ। आई मीन अपनी पेस पे। तो बहरहाल ये हुआ कि कहाँ था, आई लॉस्ट माई ट्रेन ऑफ थॉट। हाँ, एनीवेज, तो यहाँ पे मैंने फिर सबको बताया और मैंने कहा कि प्रोजेक्ट सबमिशन भी है। हाँ, आज प्रोजेक्ट सबमिशन थी, फिर मैंने टीचर से डिले करवाई मंडे तक, फिर दोस्त ने वेडनेसडे तक करा दी। तो अब ये है कि मैं आराम से सुकून से स्ट्रीम कर रहा हूँ यहाँ पे। और ये है कि काफ़ी गर्मी हो जाती है ऑब्वियसली। अब मेरे पास एक बूम आर्म नहीं है जिस पे मैं माइक्रोफोन लगा सकता हूँ। जिस पे एक ऐसी होती है ना, एक आर्म होता है जिस पे कहीं और से लग के माइक्रोफोन लग सकता है। वो मेरे पास नहीं है, मुझे मंगवाना है। मगर मैं ऑलरेडी एक महंगा माइक्रोफोन और वेबकैम खरीद चुका हूँ। तो आई विल वेट फॉर माय नेक्स्ट सैलरी बिफोर दैट। तो प्रॉब्ली अगले महीने। तो उससे फिर ये होगा कि जब मैं इतना करीब आके बात कर रहा हूँ तो मैं वेबकैम में भी ठीक लग रहा हूँ। और ये कि फ़ैन की नॉइज़ इतनी नहीं आएगी। ये ट्विच की जो व्यू काउंट है, व्हाई इज इट सो मेस्ड अप? यानी ये देखो 1 दिखा रहा है। दिस व्हाई आई थॉट यू लेफ्ट। मगर इसमें फिर आई गेस दैट्स गुड इन द लॉन्ग रन। वैसे ही कुछ लोग व्यू काउंट छुपाते हैं अपने आप से। eh. अच्छा, कंपटीशन कंपटीशन देखो, पायरेट सॉफ्टवेयर। यार वैसे ऑनेस्टली पायरेट सॉफ्टवेयर थोड़ा सा ओवररेटेड लगता है। इसलिए थोड़ा ओवररेटेड लगता है, यानी हाउ डू यू स्ट्रीम 24/7? अब वो बस बेसिक मोस्ट जनरल टेक्स्ट जैसे क्रिटिकल मॉइस्ट, क्या मॉइस्ट क्रिटिकल ना, जैसे उसका मजाक उड़ता है कि वो मोस्ट ऑब्वियस ओपिनियंस बताता है, मोस्ट ऑब्वियस ओपिनियंस और रिएक्शंस देता है कि विच विल बी एक्सेप्टेड बाय एवरीवन। इसलिए अभी तक कभी कैंसिल नहीं हुआ है। मोस्ट क्रिटिकल हैज नेवर बीन कैंसिल। बट हाँ, तो उस तरीके से मुझे लगते हैं जो सारे प्राइवेट सॉफ्टवेयर जैसे प्राइमेजन फिर भी कोशिश करता है कोडिंग में डिफरेंस वैरायटी लाने के लिए। बढ़िया, मेरे लिए स्ट्रीमिंग इज कम्प्लीटली न्यू। इट वाजंट इवन ऑन माय रेडार कि मुझे करना क्या था। यानी इस तरीके से मैं एक ऑल उसमें चले जाता हूँ, कैम ओनली में। ओ ओ प्रोफेशनल स्ट्रीम प्रोफेशनल स्ट्रीमिंग। तो इसके साथ ये फ़ायदा हो जाता है कि इसे मुझे कैमरा सेटअप करने दो। हाँ, अब हाँ, तो क्या कर रहा था, मुझे अपनी अम, जो कंटिन्यूटी है बात करने की और कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स, वो भी मेरे ख्याल से इससे काफ़ी इंप्रूव होंगी मेरी स्ट्रीमिंग से। तो मैंने बस रैंडमली सोचा कि इट्स जस्ट एक्स्ट्रा मोटिवेशन, बट उससे ज़्यादा ऐसा नहीं था। मैं थोड़े मैं लीस्ट क्लिक बेटी टाइटल सोच रहा था ताकि मैं यूट्यूब पे भी अपलोड कर सकूँ। बट पता नहीं, एक एक स्टिग्मा है अराउंड, जैसे नॉट इवन स्टिग्मा। अब अगर कुछ सेम कंटेंट, अगर एक देसी पाकिस्तानी या इंडियन बना रहा हो, जैसे क्रिएटिंग अ गेम दैट विल रूइन फ्रेंडशिप्स, अगर एक गोरा बोल रहा होता ना, फिर भी इतना क्रिंज नहीं लगता। मगर पता नहीं क्यों एक थोड़ी हिंट ऑफ क्रिंज है, एज इन एक साइड ऑफ अनओरिजिनलिटी, कि आपको लग रहा है कि ये थोड़ा कॉपी कर रहा है, विच दे डू टू। वो सबसे ज़्यादा कॉपिंग करता है, बट आई डोंट नो, इट्स जस्ट वियर्ड। तो व्हाट आर योर हॉबीज? आई गेस मेरी तो बहुत टाइम तक मुझे पता नहीं था हॉबीज होती क्या है। यानी मैं समझता था कि जैसे स्टैम्प कलेक्टिंग होती है, डिफरेंट चीज़ें होती है। these फेक हॉबीज, नोबडी कोई एक्चुअली इस दुनिया में स्टैम्प्स कलेक्ट करता है। लाइक आई नो कि मैं बचपन में उनकी वीडियोस देखता था जो एक गोल्डन डिटेक्टर लेके जाते थे और फिर हम बचपन में देख रहे होते, ओ माय गॉड, इससे हम कितने पैसे कमा सकते हैं। वो अपनी जमीन से। फिर अब बाहर जाके देखते हैं, अब कराची का लैंडस्केप नजर आता है। नो गोल्ड टू बी फाउंड। मगर और मैं यही सोचा था कि अभी अगर मेरी प्रैक्टिस होगी बाय टॉकिंग टू माई सेल्फ, तो यानी अभी तो ये ना कि एक चैट से मैं बात कर सकता हूँ, थर्ड थोड़ा टाइम में एक बंदा आ गया और मैंने उससे थोड़ी बात कर ली, ज़्यादा टाइम अपने आप से बात करता रहा। मगर जब बहुत ज़्यादा व्यूअर्स हो जाते हैं, तो फिर तकरीबन सेम ही चीज़ हो जाती है कि जैसे आपके पास कोई चैटर्स नहीं है और आपको फिर अपने आप से ही बात करनी पड़ती है। तो या बस की प्रैक्टिस कर रहा हूँ। और मैं प्रॉब्ली माइक्रोफोन से थोड़ा दूर होऊंगा तो मेरी आवाज़ ही नहीं आ रही होगी। व्हाट एल्स? यार जब मैंने सीखी थी ना प्रोग्रामिंग, तो मैंने एक 1 GB रैम लैपटॉप पे सीखी थी और मैंने उसी पे वीडियो एडिटिंग भी सीखी थी। मैंने उस 1 GB रैम के लैपटॉप पे वीडियो एडिटिंग करने की कोशिश की थी। और ऑब्वियसली मैं आई somehow made it work, यानी उस पे मैंने फिर लिनक्स सीखा क्योंकि विंडोज़ बहुत स्लो चल रहा था, एट सम पॉइंट जस्ट स्टॉप वर्किंग कम्प्लीटली। तो मुझे लिनक्स डालना पड़ा और जब मैंने डाला तो उसके लिए मुझे सीखनी पड़ी पूरे टर्मिनल और सारी चीज़ें। तो उसमें काफ़ी टाइम लगा। मगर दैट्स व्हाई यू प्रॉब्ली सीइंग माय स्क्रीन, तो मैं हाइपरलैंड और लिनक्स इस्तेमाल कर रहा हूँ। अल्ट्रा टेक नर्ड टॉक। मगर हाँ, पता नहीं मुझसे, इवन दो प्रोग्रामिंग की फील्ड है पूरी, मुझसे मैथ्स कभी पूरी तरीके से नहीं होती। जैसे आई could spend hours and hours and hours on it every day, और मैंने किया था एक बहुत सॉलिड अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम तक कि मैं इसको परफेक्ट करूँगा काफ़ी तक के। मगर थोड़ा सा भी आप गैप देते हैं, इट्स लाइक यू एक्चुअली लूज वो पार्ट, वो ब्रेन से वो न्यूरो जो कनेक्शंस आपने बनाए थे। बाकी सारी स्किल्स के साथ मेरे मतलब इतना नहीं होता। दूसरी स्किल्स के साथ यानी आप जैसे सपोज करें, कभी आपने एक दो वीडियो एडिटिंग की, थोड़े टाइम बाद में आपको 10 मिनट लगे वापस पिकअप करने के लिए, आपने 2 साल बाद पिकअप कर लिया। मैथ्स के साथ ही है, तुमने एक पूरी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व की, हर चीज़ की, तुमने 1 साल के लिए छोड़ा, एंड नाउ यूर बैक टू द सेम प्लेस। अब लाइक ऑल 1 साल के अंदर यू लॉस्ट ऑल प्रैक्टिस। जब भी कोई न्यू प्रॉब्लम करने की कोशिश करोगे, इट्स लाइक यू ओनली रिमेंबर द कॉन्सेप्ट। तो आई डोंट नो, आई थिंक दैट्स वियर्ड, किसी को रिसर्च करनी चाहिए इस पर। लाइक स्पीकिंग ऑफ रिसर्च, मेरे जहन में आया था कि मैं थोड़ी और ए आई बेस्ड स्ट्रीम्स भी करूँ, मेरे पास काफ़ी सॉलिड आइडियाज़ हैं। मैं अपना ओन लाइक अपने ओन ए आई फ्रॉम स्क्रैच, अपनी ओन ए आई लाइब्रेरीज और हर चीज़ करना, वो बनाने का सोच रहा था। बट आई थिंक इवन दो बड़े प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, लाइक अगर मैं उनकी बेयर बोन्स वर्जन बना दूँ, इट माइट ऑल्सो ट्रैक सम अटेंशन और मेरी खुद भी काफ़ी लर्निंग हो जाएगी इससे। बट या अपकमिंग अपकमिंग प्रोजेक्ट सोचना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल है, यानी न्यू। ज़्यादातर लोग कहते हैं कि यू कैन जस्ट यूज़ ओल्ड प्रोजेक्ट्स एंड जस्ट सी व्हाट ऑलरेडी स्टिक्स। मगर मेरे ख्याल से एक आध न्यू प्रोजेक्ट विल ब्रिंग नॉवेल्टी थोड़ी सी। मेरे पास वैसे इतना टाइम है नहीं क्योंकि ये जॉब यूनी वगैरह सबके साथ बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है। या बट alhamdulillah I can do what I want to do, and I think this is part of my growth, यानी काफ़ी सारी लर्निंग हो जाती है इसी से ही। अब मैं इतने सॉलिड अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम विद एन एक्सक्यूज, अब जैसे मैं चैन से बैठ के अगर स्ट्रीमिंग कर भी रहा हूँ, तो मैं चैन से बैठ के एक प्रोजेक्ट पे फोकस भी कर पा रहा हूँ, यू नो। इट्स नॉट लाइक कि हर हर 2 सेकंड कोई इंटरप्शन हो रही है। तो एक एक्सक्यूज भी मिल गया फॉर मी टू सिट डाउन एंड जस्ट लर्न, जस्ट फोकस ऑन वन प्रोजेक्ट। तो वो मेरी जो परफेक्शनिस्ट मेंटालिटी थी जो पहले, उसको भी ब्रेक करने में काफ़ी आसानी करती है। um, हाँ, बट मैंने सुना था कि मैं सोच रहा था कि मैं यूट्यूब पे स्ट्रीमिंग करना शुरू करूँ या ट्विच पे। बट लाइक ट्विच की अभी पॉलिसीज़ और बदली हैं, उस पर एड्स लगने ही हैं। पता नहीं, मेरे ख्याल से कुछ एड्स एड्स लगे हैं क्या, या बस कंट्रोल नहीं आता मेरे पास जो अच्छा। तो ये आ गई इंटरप्शन हमारी। बढ़िया। मैं क्या कह रहा था, हाँ, स्ट्रीमिंग ऑन ट्विच। तो मैं सोच रहा था कि बिकॉज आई डोंट रियली वांट टू लिव ऑफ डोनेशन, यानी इट्स नॉट इवन लिविंग ऑफ, लोग बहुत अमीर हुए हैं इससे, आई डोंट नो, इट जस्ट सीम्स भिखारी बना। maybe that's just me being Pakistani, but like it just sounds like even अगर beg नहीं कर रहे हैं, you're asking for little donation। आपको जिनको वैल्यू entertainment तो provide, I don't know, doesn't stick with me, right? तो मैं सोच रहा था कि सबसे आसान तरीका क्या होगा कि मैं मेजर चैरिटीज़ को लिंक करूँ, तो थोड़ा और ऑब्वियसली मशहूर हो जाऊँ। तो उसमें ये होगा कि साइड डोनेशन उनको जाएगी, या ताकि फिर इवेंचुअली मैं जब अपनी एक साइड बिजनेस स्टार्ट करूँगा। स्पीकिंग ऑफ बिजनेस, creating a software engineering company is so difficult, यानी कंपटीशन तो अपनी जगह है, मगर अब जैसे होता है ना कि अच्छा एलेक्स रमोजी वगैरह को भी देखेंगे, which is he's a great businessman by the way, अगर नहीं पता, uh, one of the greatest on this platform, तो yeah, literally first इसकी वो आई है, Alex Ramosi, watch this if you don't want to become failure. इसकी starting a business or a split advice or side चीज़ें and how to run it, how to scale it. तो school.com शायद सुना होगा, तो इसी का है पूरा। He just helps scale businesses now. पहले जिम था उसका, बाकी चीज़ें थी। Anyways, this advert for Alex. Um, क्या कर रहा था मैं इसका क्या बता रहा था? हाँ, नहीं, मैं बता क्यों रहा था इसके बारे में? अच्छा, anyways, मैं बात कर रहा था स्ट्रीमिंग की। क्या मुझे एक नोट पैड साइड पे रखना चाहिए where I just list down, अच्छा कॉन्वर्जेशन में ये पॉइंट्स होता है, जस्ट लाइक कि मुझे क्या क्या पॉइंट्स कवर करना है, ताकि आई जस्ट स्विच टू दैट and not get stuck. चलो, I'm just gonna keep changing the topic if I keep forgetting. तो यूट्यूबर्स ओरिजिनली मैं सोच रहा था कि मैं एक यूट्यूबर मॉडल बनाऊँ, या तो मैं बस एस्की के साथ, कुछ लोग होते हैं जैसे एक टर्मिनल विंडो, यू नो व्हाट एस्की इज, राइट? एस्की इज लाइक टेक्स्ट के थ्रू you're creating an image like this. ये देखो, how cool is this? Asterisk, dot, commas और सिक पूरी तस्वीर बन गई। तो ऐसे एक लाइव मेरा यूट्यूबर हो, यू नो, विद कलर्स, में कलर्स भी इंट्रोड्यूस करा सकते हैं, थोड़ी सी और हाई क्वालिटी करते हैं, ज़्यादा छोटा करते हैं इसकी स्केल, इमोशन डिटेक्शन और एआई उस पर भी डाल सकते हैं ओपन सीवी के थ्रू। बट एट द एंड ऑफ द डे मैंने सोचा ये काफ़ी ज़्यादा एफर्ट है, एंड प्लस आई डोंट इवन रियली केयर अबाउट हाइडिंग माई फेस, और उससे ज़्यादा ही लोग आए हैं, यानी जो लोगों ने एक्चुअली चैट की है, दे वर ओनली द पीपल जिन्होंने कहा कि ओ, इसकी शक्ल ऐसी लग रही है कि हमारे मुल्क से uh, और मैं रियलाइज कर रहा हूँ, आई पुट comfy as the in the description of my stream, मगर I don't think I have a comfy personality, यानी एक वीट्यूबर एक क्लॉवियो डुप्लीकेट कर लेते हैं उसे। ओ, मेरे कैम ओनली था, so you couldn't, oh wow, stream fail moment, क्लॉवियो क्लॉवियो। बस ये अगर वॉर्ड्स रिकॉर्ड करती ना, इसकी इंटायर जो सारी स्ट्रीम्स हैं, देर ऑल जस्ट वेरी लेट बैक। इस ये एक बड़ी प्राइमरी मोटिवेटर थी, और टी सोडिंग, जो कि लिटरली बस कोड स्ट्रीम करता है एट स्केच, बस कहता है एक सेमाई क्लिक बेटी थंबनेल टाइटल रखता है, और फिर एक पूरा प्रोजेक्ट बनाता है। ही एक्चुअली ओन्स अप टू दैट, यानी एक होता है क्लिक बेट हो गया, एक होता है क्लिक बेट बट इट्स एक्चुअली ट्रू, इट्स नॉट रियली क्लिक बेट नहीं हुआ, बट ऐसे हमने इस पर वीडियो बनाई थी। बट अब जैसे जितने मैं रेफरेंसेस अभी थ्रो आउट कर रहा हूँ, एक फ्यूचर प्रोजेक्ट है मेरा कि ये खुद ही आ जाए, यू नो, इट्स लाइक अगर मैं बोलूँ वो रेफरेंस, और फिर वो बस पॉपअप हो जाए ऑन स्क्रीन, लाइक एज एन इमोजी। अगर मैं जैसे मैं कहूँ क्रिंज माइनक्राफ्ट की जो माइनकॉन, क्रिंज माइनकॉन मोमेंट्स है ना, कंपाइलेशन, तो उसकी एक मशहूर वीडियो थी कि कोई, अच्छा मैं जिस एग्जैक्ट वीडियो की बात कर रहा हूँ, तो मल्टीपल चीज़ें मुझे दिखा देगा with pictures, और बस मैं सेलेक्ट कर लूँगा मुझे कौन सा चाहिए, and with the key I can have that reference pop up, तो लोगों के लिए आसानी होगी, मुझे बार बार हर दफ़ा टाइप नहीं करना पड़ेगा. Maybe that sounds unique, so it could be a thing. um let's see. Acha, so you're still in the stream, but I think I might end it here and then start a few hours later, like 1 hour later, maybe half hour later, or maybe just a few days later. If you want to see notifications from me, please hit that follow. I'm joking. You don't have to follow me because honestly, I know कि इतना quality content नहीं है. It's just me trying my best at enjoying what I kind of enjoy, adding more enjoyment to what I enjoy. But yeah, hope that was semi entertaining and I did not completely waste your time. And if you ever wanted to किसी भी specific चीज़ की stream चाहिए, since I'm really starting out right now, any ideas या कुछ भी हो कि I just want like maybe a just chatting stream या कुछ भी, whatever is best. So if you have any ideas of that sort, you can just leave them in the chat. And that's about it. So thank you for whoever joined the stream and whoever might be watching the video if I record this as a VOD and upload it onto YouTube. And I'm going to be sure to get a a boom arm in a few days, inshallah. Okay. Well, thank you for joining me and bye bye.